Share screen. You ready, Devin? Okay, good morning and good evening if you are evening students. This is the final lesson for Module 1, Lesson 8, AI Use Strategy, plus the weekly assessment. Applying everything you've learned thus far into a personal strategy. You'll have time after today's lesson to continue wherever you left off if you have work from previous lessons. Do look in the announcements. I made an announcement about using IBM Skills Build, and that I'll be doing a video on how to set that up for a free certificate instead of Coursera, since Coursera was showing a $50 roughly payment instead of previously you were able to audit the course for free, and we don't want anybody to have to pay anything, so we'll be doing the IBM instead. And I do have, it'll be after this lesson, I'll leave this call up, Devin, and at 10:30 I have to get on another call with our team, so I'll have stopped the recording after lesson 8, but I'm going to leave up our class call while you work. Okay, pathway overview. In this capstone lesson, you will synthesize everything learned across the course into a personal AI use strategy, which is a practical plan for how you will use AI tools in your work and learning and your personal life, your own interests. You will identify your workforce targets, map your workflow, and create a sustainable approach to AI integration. This lesson concludes with a weekly self-assessment to measure your progress and readiness for the job market. Workforce targets are to define your personal workforce targets and career goals in relation to AI skills. Map your current workflow and identify 2 to 3 high-impact areas where AI can add value. Design a personalized AI use strategy document with specific tools, prompts, and processes. Create a weekly reflection and assessment system to track your AI skill growth. Develop a job readiness action plan based on your industry and role. Demonstrate understanding how prompt engineering applies to your chosen field, and evaluate your progress using measurable metrics and self-assessment rubrics. Key vocabulary for this lesson: workforce targets, workflow, AI use strategy, integration, sustainability, prompt template, metrics, job readiness, data literacy, productivity, content strategy, and iterative. So for the live build demonstration, what is one task you do regularly, such as homework? You might also be a college student, a job task with your current job, or maybe think of a previous job, maybe some personal creative project that you're working on at the moment. And where could AI help you save time or improve quality? So we did see how you could use prompts to help write out emails for certain audiences if that was the job task in the morning, and be able to actually get where you create templates to use that would fit for certain situations to save time. The homework example, if the person had their homework assignment sent to them like in Google Classroom, and they had it in Drive or in whatever form it was, PDFs or not, they could always upload that into what the assignment is into, say, Gemini. And based on the schedule of what they have for that evening, maybe they have a sports game to go to. Maybe at a certain time at like 7 p.m., there's a TV show they want to watch. So maybe help plan the time of when they'll work on the homework that evening and maybe a few bursts. And then be able to create some examples to help them with their homework. Say it's math assignments, to be able to find online videos if they might only have their notes from that day's lesson. So to find online free resources, to be able to, based on the homework assignment, generate quizzes based on that that would prep them even more for an upcoming test. Think about your ideal job in the next couple of years and what AI skills would make you a stronger candidate. As you think on that, just note whatever that job is. We already have seen that the market is moving towards seeing the need of having AI skills. So ultimately, if you're able to save time and be more efficient and be able to free up time where you're not doing as much of the mundane tasks that are super repetitive, and that you could focus more on the creative outlets, and you're bringing that creativity and your personal flair to the role, then that will be a plus in the future. But definitely being able to help you get through the repetitive task and being able to complete tasks much more quicker. So then you're going to be a candidate that's able to produce your work on time and even early. If you could master one AI tool in the next month, which would have the biggest impact on your life? That one's going to depend on what the project you're working on is, and or the job that you're working for. So if it is one that requires a lot of data analysis, then you would be wanting to use ones that are able to are more geared towards looking at a bunch of like spreadsheets and giving insights based on those. Or later we'll get to document AI, where it could give insights on all sorts of documents that are uploaded. Right now, it might be the next, you might be planning a birthday party or event or reunion party, family reunion, or it might be a vacation coming up. Maybe you have a summer vacation. Using something like Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT would be very beneficial in that and helping you planning in the near future for that. And describe a workflow or process you currently use. Where do you get stuck or lose the most time? So your flow of work throughout the day, if you do check your emails in the morning and maybe you plan for the day at that time, then you probably get into your um, set of um, hour or two that you get good productive work done. Then you might have a break. Then you're probably getting some more work checking emails before lunch, checking after lunch, and then whatever your afternoon tasks are, maybe you have meetings. So being able to get insights on what would be the most productive on, are there times that AI could take notes and summarize the meeting for you if it's one that you didn't have to sit in on? Would you be able to have an AI assistant sit in for you and take notes?
You say that I've noticed on my chat GPT, matter of fact, it done it to me yesterday. Um, because I was helping my cousin out with something. Um, that it has a storage.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about you doing your doctorate, your master, anything of that nature, whatever you written or whatever you place into it, even though you put new chat, I guess it keeps it like a record, like a cookie or something. Every
Mm-hmm.
time you bring it up or you bring up a similar situation, it will always bring up. Because I know it's number one, I did a lot of fatherhood stuff on there. So every time I write a paper, so they be like, "This will go good with your fatherhood,"
Mm-hmm.
or "This will go good with your book," or whatever. It'll make those corrections. Every time it makes that note because it has made that note, and I know when you said that because when I was working on my doctorate, it says everything that you write down you need to keep because you're going to just need to just put it together instead of just getting a whole new paperwork.
Exactly. Now, on the different chats, when you create a new one in like Chat GPT, I did get an email the other day that there was an update on the paid tier where it's even more personalized and remembering all your past chats. It's still supposed to be a feature when you create a new project. There's a rule in there that you could tell it specifically what you're wanting it to do in that project and
Mhm.
what other chats you want it to have access to. But in general, for it getting to where it could write like you and have more of your personality, they're saying that they've upped the ante on that just by how much better it's able to pull from all of your past chats. So something that was already doing it,
Yeah.
they're saying it's supposed to be better now. I haven't tried it since that email yet, so I'd be curious to test out the outputs with that.
Well, I know GPT does it. If I upload any of my homework or any of my files, it's
Hmm.
kept it and they'll notice it, my writing style and everything. And uh, it'll suggest, where do I need to make a change or how do I need to make a change from there.
Yeah, and maybe you could tell it in that chat if it could start recognizing based on what you've uploaded into it. Say it was a homework assignment versus maybe notes that you're putting in, wanting help coming up with some analogies and stuff for a
Mhm.
sermon, right? To notice the difference between those. And then when you're working on fiction writing, if it could notice the tasks are different and maybe you would want it to respond differently to you in that context. And when you want it to be very, structured education for that purpose, when it's able to be more creative, maybe when you're doing your
Mhm.
writing. And then you told it, you had to buckle down and say for help, if you were using it to help in any prepping for any church type work, that you were telling it where its source needed to come from and you didn't want it pulling from certain sources.
Yeah, and it'll do that. I mean, honestly, it tracks me. It
Mm-hmm.
tracks me. Now if I put in a question too general and I don't tell specifically what I'm doing, then all of those past tasks shows up. So it
Mm-hmm.
will break it down. If you ask it about this, this will go good with your fatherhood. If you ask about this same answer can go with your book. If you ask about this can go in a good sermon. And they'll
Mm-hmm.
actually break it down like that for me. So I had to be careful not to make something too general. I had to tell it specifically, I need this for this type of assignment. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I had to put in there, don't address fatherhood because I know
Yeah.
it's gonna kick it in there every time I do a resume or something. I enter a resume and the first thing I put in there is my fatherhood stuff because on my resume you gotta remember I'm still out with the state of Mississippi, so
Right.
it always pulls it down, and so I had to be very specific about what I want and what I need.
And Devin's referring to Fatherhood Initiative and with Healthy Start, in case anybody's wondering. That'll probably be beneficial sometime during the class to get you. Those are some example workflows you go through in different tasks and your work and everything. Because I plan on doing kind of like some of mine and with fiction writing. So maybe we can record one where you do a hypothetical, session that you're working on. I think that would be helpful and maybe using a certain tool of your choice.
Mhm.
So, what does job readiness mean to you? So, thinking on that. And one thing is that for everyone that we do have our technology support team, if you didn't know, and they're there to support for all things outside of the instruction time and needs that are directly related to it. So, if something comes up in life that's affecting your performance in the class, or if you're going to be able to continue or not, they're there to look for resources to help out with that and also to help out with job readiness. And in mentioning that, we will have some professional development meetings that will be recorded too, that our time for next Intellect looks like we're going to do 1 p.m. on Fridays whenever we do have them. It might be each week. So this week, tentatively, we have that at 1 o'clock with Jessica Hayes, and there'll be different topics each time, and they're going to try to acquire some different speakers and helping prepare everybody for jobs when it's looking over resumes and getting to hear some industry specific knowledge and what they're looking for. And so those should be beneficial. All the different tracks of MCA powered by NeXT are going to be having their professional development sessions, but those will be recorded. So for your, and with this being the last lesson, a lot of this one is going to be going in and taking the time work yourself. So I'm trying to move this back out of the way some. It's not clicking. There we go. So for your capstone for module 1, you're going to build out that AIU strategy. So a practical written plan, in your own words, being able to understand it, easy to follow through of how you plan to use AI in whichever of those that you selected. And so this could be the hypothetical general job like a marketing content writer, or it could be like office assistant, admin assistant. It could be a very specific title, and then you'll be pulling the types of duties that are in that job and things required of kind of get an idea of what you might be doing day to day from like job postings. But it could be hypothetical too if you know enough about that. So you'll do enough research in that pathway to be able to say, this is the type of stuff I'll do, and then how am I going to use AI in helping me with this. And it could be moving towards that like career growth. It might be the plan of what's getting you to that position. And then once you have that position, having a plan of how you would use it in that work. And then you could set up a weekly self assessment for yourself to track your progress on adding to this and making it more robust. And so, just like all the other lessons, you will have added to your portfolio of things that you've actually built. And this will demonstrate job readiness or moving towards that and clear next steps for your career. So, you want to define your workforce targets. Those are the specific jobs or roles or skills that you want to develop. Okay, so the skills might be broad to hit a bunch of different jobs. Could be a specific role, like you're wanting to be an instructor for a certain academy or university. Specific job like IT. Just choose what's along your own path and the skills that you've developed and ones you want to continue to have something realistic and that you're wanting to do afterwards. So some examples would be like a data analyst, content creator, marketing specialist. Okay, and you could look up similar titles for some of these positions as well. Be specific. Instead of saying, I want a job in tech, that you're writing in this, you'll say, I want to work as a data analyst. And then maybe you're saying using which are the skills are most needed for that. So maybe you're using Python and SQL. This will help you choose the right AI tools and skills to build. Okay. So maybe it's, I want to be a content creator and for maybe, a certain company, and that's going to be using like Canva or Adobe, and what type of tools like Photoshop and things you can be using, and then what AI tools and creating generative AI using to create images, video content. Maybe you have audio created, depends on the role. Write down your primary target role and then 2 to 3 sub skills that you need to develop. So you could find these skills and like the job, find a job posting of that type of job, such as a data analyst, and see the skills that are needed, and you could pick from that. Then your workflow is the sequence of steps you need to complete a task or project. So that could be broken down to a workflow of that one task that you're working on at that time. Might be something that you're working on that takes an hour, and all those could be connected. Maybe you have a workflow for that day, but that is accomplishing multiple tasks. Maybe all those tasks are tied into one project. So you would want to pick to make it, um, you might use a different AI tool for a different task. So that's how you would want to break it down into that one specific task you're working on. And then what is the workflow of steps that you follow to do that? So it needs to be specific, like if you were going to build a an app, what type of things would you start out with? Okay, are you using a low code, no code AI tool? Or do you have enough knowledge on, are you using like Visual Studio and a coding language and you're building up the back end, and then you're going to do front end work? This is as specific as following the steps of a recipe that you're following. Or if you're going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, acquiring your materials in the first place and then assembling, and then if you are going to cut off the crust or not, all of that up to the point of eating it. So you would have all the tasks, all the steps needed to complete that task. Next to each step, include identify any friction points that you may have. So where might you lose time doing that task, make errors, or feel stuck? Okay. So that would be big for like a content creator. If they're in that brainstorm part of thinking, what are they going to write for the task that's assigned to them? So maybe it is something that needs to go out for a new product they have on social media, and maybe they're wanting to have something new each week and supporting that. Well, they might get stuck in that writer's block where they don't really know what to put down on the page or on the screen with typing. So using AI tool and helping generate, that would be big for generative AI, would be great at helping them brainstorm ideas if they could give a specific thing about what the product is, kind of who their audience is, and saying some ideas on if they're wanting it to be based on, what's going on at the time. If this is like getting ready for summer, so maybe it has a summer theme to it. Is this like out school's out for summer scenario? Is this a going back to school product to get people to get their backpacks and all their supplies like that? That type of information would be beneficial in the brainstorming. Any research they need once they get to deciding what they will be writing and actually writing that first draft, and then editing it, creating visuals or picking visuals from assets that are already created, and then publishing it and then promoting it. So you want to identify high impact AI opportunities. So not every step in your workflow needs AI. So knowing all the things you open up at the beginning of the day, that if you need to open Teams, if you need to open your organization email, whether it's Outlook, or if it's using Google, and then maybe you need to put in your time in, maybe you use ADP, and you're doing those things. You don't need AI in the things that you're opening up. Okay. And some of those short routine things, if you're putting in your time real quick, if it's something you could create a template for, then yes. But just note that not every step needs it. Just opening up your Chat GPT, Gemini, and things like that. Those are tasks that you're just going to do and click on open up. Now, at the same time, you could have it on your computer where certain apps open up whenever you turn it on. Then, yeah, that would save you a little time of clicking on each one. So you'd focus on 2 to 3 high impact opportunities first. And high impact meaning these are tasks that are time consuming, repetitive, or where you struggle the most. So for a content creator, using that example again, a high impact opportunity might be generating topic ideas. Maybe it's drafting outlines quickly, especially if they have an upcoming deadline, or brainstorming social media captions. For a data analyst, opportunities might be cleaning data, writing SQL queries, and explaining findings. Choose opportunities that directly support your workforce targets. For each high impact opportunity that you choose a specific AI tool and design a reusable prompt. So you're going to want to pick that one specific tool and stick with it at first for that task in that moment of figuring out how you're going to use AI to best serve you at that, where you can focus on it, not focusing on multiple tools. And you'll design a reusable prompt that you could use for that task or similar tasks. So a reusable prompt is a template that you could use over and over. So then you might have something like this where you have brackets where you could just swap out what's in that spot, and most everything else in your template could stay the same. So that content creator might have a prompt, generate 5 blog post titles about. When the topic changes each time, they could put that in. Maybe the audience isn't college age this time. Maybe it is a very specific age range where it's just saying from 20 to 30. Okay. Or is this for teens? And how specific is it? Any keywords that need to be included. Then document your tool choice that you chose for this. So if you used, say, Gemini, okay, you have your template that you could use. So that way it's in this place where you're saving on your AIU strategy, where you would have, oh, if I'm doing this task, this is the template I had and I used it in this one, It was in chat, so you'll know where to go back, and it has that knowledge of conversations you already had before with similar tasks. This is where prompt engineering skills from lessons 2 through 5 become your competitive advantage. Then for a weekly self-assessment, a simple check-in where you measure your progress. So if you create a form or document with 5 to 7 questions that you answer every Friday or Sunday or the beginning of the next week on Monday, so ultimately just saying that you've taken a week's time where you can answer questions such as which AI opportunities did I use this week, during our class time and during outside when you're doing your self-paced work in the afternoons on labs. So the tools you used and then how you're applying it in your personal and your work life and how that went. Have you already noticed of any savings in time? How is your output quality? Is it improving? Is it more clear? Are they outputs that you definitely could see yourself using? What type of prompts are working best with the work that you're doing? What have you struggled with so far that week? And did you move closer to your workforce targets? This habit will keep you accountable and reveal what is working. So your AIU strategy and why you're doing this, if you're asking yourself the why, is you're supporting job readiness. So this is making sure that between the self-assessments that you're growing and using AI and that the tools you're working are it's all individualized. So one of you might be using certain tools for a job, that another technologist is not using, because it doesn't apply to them. So this is your time to be able to hone in things specifically for you. That way, also having your AIU strategy of when you're doing like task A or task B, I'm using this tool. I have some templates that I use. This is how I interact with it. Maybe I then also test it in another tool to compare the outputs to see which one is better. So maybe you do use Gemini and then Chat GPT. Well, these are things you could bring up in an interview when they're asking about skills you have, being able to leverage AI into your daily workflows, naming tools that you have mastered. Okay. Specific metrics on time that you notice it has saved you, your quality gains, how your output has improved. So maybe you're getting to go from generating output in your content writing to so many words beyond what you previously had completed drafts sent in. Okay, that might increase maybe 2-3 times the output that you had before, and time adds up. It is a big deal, even if it was just a little bit each day. So maybe ultimately AI might save you 20 minutes in one part of the day 10 minutes another part of the day with what you're doing. Well, that's 30 minutes that you saved in that day, and that's already given you 2.5 hour savings if it was roughly the same in the week. Ultimately, you're becoming someone who's not afraid of AI. You plan to use it and you can use it strategically. You embrace it. You're no longer thinking of it as this overlord Terminator type situation in Skynet, okay? But something that you work with as a assistant, working alongside it, remembering the human is in the chair, you're the one at the helm leading it, okay, and guiding it with your prompts to get the outputs that you want. It was created, by humans to serve humans. Employers, we already saw some studies that have showed are wanting to see people that use AI in their work. So you're already bettering your chance of getting hired by incorporating and integrating this modern technology into your workflows. Your strategy document and weekly assessment data prove that you have this mindset. Some common mistakes to avoid: using AI for everything instead of being selective. So take that time and thinking of certain tasks. Is it actually beneficial? You could test it out and see if it's quicker for you to go and click on something and type in. There's certain times that I don't use it to write a response, to somebody email. When somebody has a question, I directly know what to say, and if I don't have to worry too much about how it's written, if it could be somewhat informal, there's certain things that I'll be able to write more quickly, and I'm not having to use an AI tool, So if I'm just typing out a quick one or two sentences and I'm fine with it and sending it off, it would have taken more time for me to pull up ChatGPT, even if I had a template for thing. If this was a very specific email and a conversation, like a student situation that they were having, and I'm already aware of it.
Well, I didn't know. Is it possible actually to set AI when you say it like that? Is it actually possible to set it where it does your workflow for the day?
Yeah, people with AI assistants now, there's videos of people that have already created AI avatars of themselves that sat in meetings. That gets into ethics, on is your company aware that you're doing something else, and and it's taking notes, and especially if it's making it look like you're in the meeting. But yeah, there are things, if you could give it templates and set up the workflow of when it checks through and has access to it and how to reply, I would still say you would need to, if you were getting it to know how to respond as you, maybe you could have it have all those drafted replies created, and then you could go in as the human and look at it and okay to send them all, something like that, and that would be doable. Yeah, I wouldn't trust it, for since all the types of conversations that could be different, and maybe its insight isn't correct on how to reply to some. It might think it could be more informal when it really needed to be formal. And of course, if it was a high stakes, a company you were reaching out to, something like that about a follow up after an interview, anything like that. But yes, there are ways that people have between, that they never even got on the meeting, right? And it's already automatically set up to take notes, okay, for them. And maybe that's okayed by the work in their workflow for whenever it's not necessary for them to be, maybe they're not required to be in that meeting, but they still want them to be aware of it. Okay. Or maybe they're wanting them to then take their notes, and maybe you give a follow up of any questions that you have from it. And that would be, of course, beneficial if you were like out for the day or something. And then that way you're not having to go back and watch a whole recording if it even was recorded. But yeah, that'll be something to test out, on AI tool if you give it access to the emails, and seeing if yeah, maybe you could have it a certain, that'll be a thing to research too, like which one can actually do that at this point. But I would say I would want it to have your maybe drafted replies of what you probably would say, and then have them all like in draft mode. So then ultimately you could just go click on your drafts and change whatever you need to that you're happy with and send it. I don't think I would want it to create something and automatically send it to people.
Well, I kind of wonder when you say Avatar is sitting in. So I wonder, like, well, for lack of better words, just about everything has some type of hot mic. And
Hmm.
I'm wondering, is the AI at this moment, in order for it to sit into a meeting, has it been recording your voice and your calls and everything that you do on your mic, and just like it's doing on my Chat GPT, it does track whatever I put on the internet. It
Hmm.
will pull it up and say, "Yeah, I know you did this earlier."
Hmm.
And so I wonder if that is actually tracking. So when you put an AI up there for you, it is already track your voice, track your demeanor, track everything that you do in a normal situation. So could it ask a question? If somebody asks a question, it can respond similar to what you would do because it already kind of knows your habits.
Yeah, that's what they're getting to with those ones that when there's actually an avatar sitting in the meeting that looks like you or an animated version of yourself, anything like that. And if the people were aware and were okay with it, yes, it is possible that you could have it asking follow-up questions based on knowing your role and the type of things that you would want to know and that follow the context of what was brought up in the meeting. Of course, it would have access to like the agenda. It would be helpful if the agenda was posted ahead of time and it knows like okay what all things are going to be discussed in the meeting, and then it's pulling from previous work you've done, chats and stuff you have. If you have yours very personalized and have used it for a while, like chat, that it's gotten better at speaking like you when it comes to writing. So then if it was generating a voice, you'd be able to have one, where you've given it voice examples and get something closer to your voice and all of that. That's going to get big into the ethics of, if you do it without letting somebody know and they are assuming that it's Matt on the call, right, and responding, then not very ethical because then everybody else is like, well, why can't I have an AI avatar and never get on these meetings, meetings, and we want to be transparent on when we're using a tool or not. So it'd be beneficial if you weren't able to make a meeting or if it wasn't when you were required to be on, would be times to use that. Definitely read over the types of mistakes to avoid. And the goal is to create a living document, meaning that this is something that you're not just one and done with. Okay. Just like a resume is a living document, you're going to go back and refine it periodically. So your portfolio artifact is your AI use strategy document. And by the end of today, you will have completed a written AI use strategy document that includes your workforce targets, your workflow map, high impact opportunities, selected tools that you would use, prompt templates, and then maybe you have the template already created for what those questions you ask yourself in your weekly assessment. You won't have answered that yet unless you start it based on, completing all of last week or thus far and then keep it current for like a week from today or next Monday. It was flexible on what day that you picked. When's the best time you want to do that and stick with it. And this document becomes a part of your portfolio, evidence of your ability to plan and execute AI integration. You'll continue using this weekly assessment system throughout the course and beyond. This is not just a lesson assignment, something to give you to do. It's not busy work. The goal is to have something that's going to support you beyond MCA's NeXT Intellect program, something that you'll be able to use in your personal life and in your entire career. Okay. I'll go back and record because I have that meeting at 10:30, so I'll record one for the IBM Skills Build instead of Coursera. That'll be a separate recording that I put in the module one to have help for if somebody already could follow this, and go into doing their own example, that's great. But if somebody needs help, that's why I'll go back and do an example where I'll open up on the Google Drive new document and create a sample one. Okay. I just don't have time before my 10:30 meeting for this. So definitely follow the guided build steps and that video will be recorded later and be a separate one, and I'll tag it too. I'll say it was for Module 1, Lesson 8, and then using the steps that were in the guided build, completing your own. Okay, so you have your lab. The portfolio artifacts were already kind of mentioned before. Here they are all together. Common problems that you might face with this lesson and their solutions, best practices, reflection journal to go through after completing the previous assignments. Okay, you'll reflect on your workforce targets. Why did you choose this role that you chose or a certain industry? What excites you about it? Are there any concerns that you have? And how will mastering AI tools in this lesson make you more competitive in that field? Describe one workflow step that frustrated you before this lesson. Now that you've identified an AI solution, how does it feel? And what does it mean for how you will work differently going forward? I'll notice this is going to take some trial and error time of when you pick a certain task, and you might research a few different AI tools. You might want to ask whichever one that you're more familiar with, like ChatGPT or Gemini. It could tell you of tools to use for certain tasks, so get it to help you in building out this AIU strategy as well. Think about your high impact AI opportunities, and are there any that you are hesitant to use and why? Is it because you do not trust the tool or because you're unsure about using AI in your work? Well, of course, when it's hypothetical and you're planning for even a title based on what you looked up online, you would always, with that job, see what their policies are on when you could use AI and what for, what type of data from a company you would be able to put in. For educational purposes, of course, you could be picking any type of job, and it's fair game to use the skills required for that job that you find, say, on Indeed. And then look at your weekly assessment questions and why did you choose those specific metrics? What does success look like for you in 4 weeks and 12 weeks? What would you need to accomplish to feel job ready in your target role? So, as part of that self assessment, know that the program was supposed to be roughly 8 weeks. Okay. So you could view it as that and breaking it down on kind of a halfway through point as the 4, and then kind of what you expect to go back and assess yourself after the program once you acquire a position that you're looking for, and being able to at that point continue seeing how it's benefiting you, and if there's anything in that AIU strategy that needs to be changed. You can imagine a job interview down the road, maybe 6 months from now, and the interview asking the question, tell me about how your AI workflow and how you have integrated AI into your work. Okay. Because you're going to be able to show certificates, so you're going to be able to have put on your resume the things that you completed that would prompt them to probably ask questions about it. So go ahead and think about how you would answer. Maybe you'd be able to share your strategy document with them, but be ready to verbally explain it. And what does your answer reveal about your growth mindset and technical readiness? Okay, your assessment to roughly look at and to see how closely you adhered to the rubric. And that completes Module 1's Lesson 8. So let me stop this stream.